you know that no matter what you've done, it just doesn't seem to translate into success for that EL student. That's the first thing we're gonna talk about. And then the second thing is the 3 common strategies, the goodies, the oldies but goodies, and then how we're gonna incorporate that into the lesson plans template that we've been asked to complete. Okay, what I already do. So, I want you to,
I did even as this PowerPoint?
Yeah. Do you want me to?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the first thing I want you guys to do is like visualize that EL student. We don't have that many in high school. If you have 1 or 2, like think about them, picture them in your mind. I'm gonna think of my Dylan. Who has Dylan?
Woo!
Okay, he's like the one that's at a 1, I think, in the LPAC. So I'm gonna think of Dylan, think of your student.
Barbara.
Now on the white paper in the
It's yours.
table, you can pass one over to Zena. I want you to
Gabriella.
write
Wow, that was.
one effective thing you've done for that EL student.
Breaking out his pen. Okay, right.
What
There's Ben.
modification have you
Yeah,
done
I'm a rebel.
for your student? For my Dylan, I'll have to think about that. So the most effective modification I've used on Dylan, and then I'm gonna write that in that white piece of paper on your desk.
No longer.
How do we know it's effective? If there was growth from where that student walked into your classroom to the end of semester 1. Whatever tool you use that helped you see that growth from the beginning to the end of semester 1. That's how you know it was an effective tool. So I'll name some 9th graders that are, or maybe I can pull it up. I have the.
I get confused between like the really low English score kids and then the, you know.
Marisol,
I don't have any
Barbara.
So I
You
have,
could use it if you
I have a
it.
schedule
Yeah,
of
no, especially with
students
blank.
here, so
Maybe just
I
not
think
applicable
everybody
this
in
year.
here has
Yeah,
EL.
that's true.
So I'll put that up here.
It's not evident in her reading writing.
All right, so Galo, you're the light one. So you have Andrew, Angel, Mauricio, Josue.
Okay,
So if you don't remember, I have a little spreadsheet up there for us.
that's great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So,
That works. Who's the dark purple one? Oh, that's Espinoza. And Rainier, you're red. Rainier, sorry. Reindeer. Okay. Now, if you've written down your modification, just hold up your paper and your effective modification.
Sorry.
Hope you can read my writing.
I apologize in advance for my writing.
Is it in green? Okay.
It's blue.
So I'm just gonna read some of them out loud. Encourage participation and level of comfort in academic setting. So that's definitely true. EL students, they know that they might not comprehend as easily as their peers, so they're gonna tend to be the ones to kind of sit back, not participate. So if you let them know that they have something to offer and you make them comfortable and build that relationship with them, then they're not gonna feel uncomfortable sharing with you or participating. So that's a good one. Modifying assignments, study guides, quizzes, verbal quizzes. Okay, that's important too.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they can speak better than they can write. So if you're trying to get an assessment from them, oral is probably the most convenient way to do it. But you still want to give them opportunities for writing. Taught him one-on-one in Spanish. For Dylan, someone said that. Paired him with a bilingual student. And oftentimes the peers will ask you to sit them next to the EL student because they'll speak for them, like, oh, he needs help, can I sit next to him? And that's cool too.
Since you're in that Spanish class, and I have what I have him do is all the assignments in that everyone is doing, he has to do them in English. And when
Okay.
there's a presentation and everybody has to present,
That's great.
he does it and they get, so for some reason, they get so excited, all the other students like cheer for him.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I've
They
noticed that
even
in
hold their
school.
breath, like when he starts
Mhm.
struggling, they'll you can feel like they're holding their breath and, yeah, you did it.
Yeah, I
They
think our school
understand.
definitely is very kind to the peers. I mean, there's bullying in every school, but I feel like in this school, there's a lot of like compassion too. So I will see that too with regards to EL students. All right, so we did you already do. I'll keep looking at these and then I'll share some more as we go through. Now, where I'd like to see growth. So where you continue to not see some of the tools or strategies you've used, where you continue to see maybe just baseline progress. Okay, consider the same EL student again or a different one. And then in what ways do they continue to struggle? And they're gonna have struggles now, so I don't expect them to, like, in semester one for you to have succeeded with them in every category. So some of the things that I came up with that I know some of my EL students struggle with still are tests, speaking, writing, reading, vocab, homework, participation. Yeah.
Very specifically, even simple sentences,
Yeah.
all the contractions.
Okay,
Like the
grammar, English
contractions,
conventions, okay.
Forgetting to say, I have told them, remember you put an S on the third person at the end of the verb, right? So we were doing the verb to be able to,
Mhm.
and so he started conjugating. I can, you can, he can, she can, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot about that one, but yeah, even simple little things
The
like that.
conjugations.
Yeah.
So I think, okay, so on the yellow paper now, specify how that student struggles. So you just shared with me, it's with conjugating, grammar, okay. I can infer that in biology, it might be just the vocab itself, the scientific vocab, and I know that because non-EL students struggle with that, right?
Yep.
So, what do I have? For me, when I'm thinking about Dylan, it's vocab development. It's the comprehension of these terms, and then applying them is obviously the hardest part too. And I know this because of their math scores, their quizzes. So if you can be specific as to how you know that they're struggling in that area, I think that'll kind of narrow down the focus as for us being sure what it is that they're struggling in.
Vocab.
How do you know that they're struggling in that area? For this one, write your name on the front, so that we're gonna use the backside in a moment, but in the front, write your name. So that I know that that concern is coming from you.
Do you want the name on the same side where we wrote?
Yeah, your name on the same side of where you wrote the area of struggle. Okay. Some of you guys are still jotting. All right, now what I want to do this time, instead of collecting it, I just want you to pass that paper to someone else in your table or behind you, just trade off with someone. I want you to read that person's struggle, and then maybe you have a tip as to how they can improve that. Or what they can do. If you have the same issue,
Yeah.
maybe add maybe the reasoning was different. Maybe you can add a little bit of your experience then, or how it differs.
You actually
or-
provided a
Well, you've
suggestion.
attempted
So what
to have
was-
it
You
succeed.
provided a
That's good one, too.
suggestion.
Oh, instead of,
Yes, good job.
I did it wrong.
No, you were just proactive. You knew what she was gonna say next.
And if you have the same issue, then write an attempt that you've made at addressing that, which has improved.
Below?
Yeah.
Below or on the back?
On the back, on the
Oops.
back.
Oh.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't specify, so wherever wherever you wrote it is fine.
All right, next to the
This
concern.
is what I'm gonna use for my research as to what I'm gonna be, kind of investigating. So, the purpose of this particular activity is I want you guys to explore kind of like where your EL students are. Because sometimes you know, we get carried away with our own planning for our just general classes, and the EL struggling students kind of get lost in there. So we have them at the forefront of our mind. We're likelier to plan out our curriculum considering their needs. So this, I mean, I know right now we're all in the middle of that, so it's good to keep them in mind. And then also, I'm gonna read through these areas of struggle, and then find out some ways that we can try new things. And then if you can shift all those yellow papers all the way down to Rena, and then we're gonna.
Thank you, brother. Mike.
As we pass the papers down, does anybody wanna like voice a concern before I move on to some strategies? Yeah.
No, I think reading is just essential. If you could have one-to-one with someone reading, so he can listen, and then, of course, him taking turns also reading, that would improve his vocab, and then once he has the vocab, then he can express himself better.
That's true, like independent reading is a challenge, so they have that audio to accompany it.
At my old school, they did pull the EL student out for one-on-one session. Do we do that?
We have a
Like one
tutor,
period a day?
but they don't have, we don't have like
It's
EL
like a set
minutes,
class
no.
period.
Not like how they do with resource students, they have minutes with, I forget.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
If
I
they
think
have
what
us
we do-
pull out once a day and it was
Yeah.
like EL support.
How many of you have Jocelyn going to your room for EL support? I know I
She
do.
came for a few days and
Occasionally.
then she stopped, so I don't know.
Jocelyn? Okay.
Well, because the students need more support in English than in Spanish,
Yeah.
or in core.
No, I mean,
sub-
she
you know.
stopped coming and pulling him out of Spanish
Oh.
for a
Okay.
few weeks, and then she was helping somebody else, I guess.
Okay. Now, the 3 strategies. Okay, I'm gonna give you like a quick little disclaimer. I really wanted to provide like an innovative strategy, something that was new to me, that might be new to you too. And in all my research and the book that Marissa recommended, online and everything, I kept seeing the same strategies over and over. I mean, in a way it's comforting because we know that those strategies that we've been taught are still true as the effective ones. So I'm gonna review those with you. Obviously, visuals. They help students conceptualize topics. And then, for example, graphic organizers, it helps structure their thoughts as well. And again, these strategies are not just for ELs, be for all your students. Sentence framing and peer collaboration. How many of you use sentence framing already? So where you create a template for them, a phrase that they fill in. So
Oh.
you guys, sentence framing, all right.
Would that be our
I did it like, not officially loosely, but after doing this research, I'm definitely gonna incorporate this one a lot more. This one came out a lot in all of my
Yeah.
research for an effective strategy. Because oftentimes, students, they might understand the concept, but they don't know how to express that to you. So if you give them the framework for it, they'll be able to plug in what they know.
I mean, you'll probably talk about it, but I was talking to Sam Carvajal yesterday about some close reading strategies,
Mhm.
and something I've kind of gotten away from. I do sentence framing for writing almost religiously, but I forgot that they also need it for speaking.
Speaking, yeah.
So like what you have on the board is like if that was a discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's
So,
great.
and also, now that you bring up speaking, one of the things that I came across in the research was having like a phrase around, you know, like how to use certain phrases when they don't understand. Because this is a pet peeve of mine. If I go to a student's desk and they're supposed to be working on something and the page is blank, and then I say, okay, clearly they're lost. So I said, I'll ask them, okay, do you need help? I don't get it. What part? All of it. So that's not helpful for me to kind of help them. So there was this one specific teacher who had like a sentence frame here that said, I understand this,
Mm.
and then the space, period, however, semicolon, however, comma, also including some grammar. I need help, I need clarification on. And so that way the student knows that when you go to them and you know that they need help, they have to first identify the concepts that they know, which will make them work a little harder too, as opposed to just seeing something difficult and then giving up. So sentence framing also helps with how they communicate with you, not just like on activities.
And it could be like a permanent poster on the
Yeah.
wall that you make
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm gonna do that,
Yeah.
when I get time.
You know, believe it or not, that's really important because
Yeah,
since a lot of our students, some of them don't really speak Spanish or English, you know, they're on the boat.
Mhm.
I mean, I have to do that with IB. If I didn't do that with IB, nobody would pass. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing, but with IB, I have to do that.
and I know some of us do it for like debates. I agree with the statement because, or although this part I agree with, I disagree with that. So we do that for some of our curriculum. It's just kind of extending that thought to other things that you might not have thought. Like for example, helping a student out, giving them a sentence frame for that. A big one too was peer collaboration. I mean, it's no secret that we're moving away from like teacher-led direct instruction. That's been a point moving from Common Core and on, I guess, where students learn best from each other. So once you give them the tools, leave them alone and let them figure things out on their own and practice with each other. And one thing that I came across for that one is complementary learning modalities. Some students are auditory or visual or whatever. So while someone might have missed something that was said, another student caught it and can fill in the blank for the student that was like reading, who the other student might have struggled in that part. So I think that's a good one. And for that, you would need to know your students too, what are their strengths, and then kind of pair them accordingly. How many of you use heavy like collaboration in your class? Just one, two. I
We
kind
do
of
in certain areas,
Yeah, depending on the topic.
yeah.
When I first started teaching, it was definitely no. It was a lot of me teaching them. But I think the more I got comfortable with my practice and how I instruct, I was able to kind of feel like, okay, I think I did a good job at teaching them this. I can let them go on that. But that takes like practice too. All right. So the next part of my presentation was really gonna be having you guys do an activity that I do with my students. But guys, the clock is ticking to tomorrow, so I'm just gonna like explain it to you unless anybody objects. Would you guys rather me go through the activity with you?
We love you so
Okay.
That's all right.
All right. So this is a practical application of visuals. So I'm reading Of Vice of Men with my students. And at the beginning of each chapter, Steinbeck does this thing where he describes the setting. Like that's his focus for like the first two paragraphs. And so I read the paragraph to them, and they're supposed to just visualize the setting. Now, some of these words, EL students have not understood the concept because of keywords like these that they might not see in any other context, like sycamores. When else would they be reading about that? So creating some visuals for them before I read kind of helps them piece together what the setting even is. And I don't know how that would look in math. That's the subject I keep getting stumped on for visuals. How do you guys use visuals in math?
Like for solving equations, you can do a balance and then, x is equal to 3, put x on one side and 3 on the other. So you show that both sides have to be
Like
equal.
quantities?
Yeah, and for
Okay.
factoring, you can use tiles, you can draw
Okay.
pictures for word problems.
Okay.
Mr. Lazier like shows the thing and then he has the students all say it. Then they have to like, and then he asks if the individual's like, can you say it? Can you say it?
Like reading out the equation?
Like they have to say that word while they're looking at the thing.
Oh, okay.
vocabulary.
Yeah, so there's like a visual of like an actual problem or like a graph or a line or something.
Okay.
Nice.
So,
I pay attention in this class.
Clearly.
Obviously
best
for
student.
stuff like, for tasks like these, you have to do some pre-reading
Yeah,
yourself.
like
And
front
kind of
load.
put yourself in the mind of an EL student
Mhm.
and think of words that they might not understand and just throw up a little visual to help them out. Now, aside from you providing the visual, another thing that I found important was them creating the visuals themselves with their peers. Obviously, that collaborative component is there. So, these are just the instructions for it. So, after I read it to them and they listen, I had them read it themselves because not everybody captures everything just listening. So then I have them read it, and then I have them draw out the picture as they imagined it. And then once they're done drawing it, here's some examples. I have some students do these. So for example, they read the passage and then they had to draw it out. Read the passage and draw it out. Now, what I tell them is like, one of the things that I like about reading is you get to imagine it through your worldview. Movies, they feed the images to you. Literature, they give you the words, and then from your own worldview, you create that world, you know? So I think that's neat, and obviously they're all gonna have somewhat of a similar context, and that's the point too. But anyways, that's something. And then the collaborative part is they share their image with their peers, and then I have them use, well, I'm going to start having them use sentence frames like this. You effectively captured this part of the setting by incorporating that, or although you did well in this part, here's what I think you missed. So that's just like visual and peer collaboration. Oh, actually sentence framing was in there too.
You did all three.
Yeah, I forgot that. I'm not stuck on this. Okay. Now, you always want to tackle different skills with one task. So I'm covering mood and vivid imagery, which is what they did with that. So now the mood is based off the description, what is the mood of the passage and what evidence can you cite to support that? And they have to use these sentence frames now. Like, I'm totally an advocate for sentence framing now, so I really encourage you guys to do the same, because based off the research, it gets you to engage the EL student. It gives them confidence because now you've given them the language they need to kind of be more on board with everybody else too. So it's definitely a confidence builder for them.
At what point do you just use it as a starter, or would you use it throughout, or
The
depends?
sentence framing, I think I was so impressed by it that I'm just starting to incorporate it as much as I can everywhere. Because if it's effective in one area, you know, I want to see that a success in different parts too. Did you have like an idea of
I was
how
just
it would?
I was just thinking about like how we talk about often, you know, how much are we providing too much support, and then they, you know, it's inhibiting them from writing their own.
Yeah.
But like, could you clarify the difference between a sentence frame and a close activity?
Close Z?
Yeah.
Well, I think for the close activity, you kind of give them that language and then they plug it in, right?
Right.
For the sentence framing, you give them the framework and they incorporate their own thoughts that you didn't give them.
Right,
Maybe
okay.
that's the difference.
Yeah, because I think in science, you guys, your notes would be considered like a close.
Our
Because you do
notes?
like a,
Well, the kids can't do it on their own. They don't know what words go in the blanks.
right, but it's not, they're not writing their, it's not like a starter, right? It's
No.
like a,
It's
Fill in the
a
blank.
framework, and so then we talk through the material together, and then the PowerPoint shows them what needs to go in each blank. So that way, I think for ELs it's helpful because they don't get bogged down by trying to write down every single word you're saying.
Yeah.
They just know I need to pay attention, and I need to make sure that whatever word goes in this blank, I get that word in there. So I think it kind of reduces their stress as far as having to write down every single thing
Yeah.
as far as the notes go.
but the frame is like a cool extension of that, because it would like, it could start them with something, but then they can finish their own thought about
Yeah.
like the application or the
Yeah.
processes it relates to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, we could take it a step further.
If I wanted to implement this, is this a suggestion for my EL students where I maybe have everybody start off with this at one point and then they can carry it on? Is this like a tool? Is this something I require them to use?
Well, this is what I have done. I'll throw up sentence frames and I'll say, you can use this as a tool. 30% of my class will not, because they don't want to feel restricted. They're advanced, so they want to do their own thing. Don't boss me. But then some students are like, I'll go with that, and they go for it. So you won't have all students use it, and that's okay. I encourage them not to if they can.
Offer it.
Yeah, yeah. But for my EL students, I might have a conversation with them and say, no, I want you to use it until I feel like they kind of can't do it without it. But they'll want to do it anyway.
But everyone would see that and be, you know, you would would suggest that for everyone, and then you would pull your EL student aside maybe and say, I want you to continue using this prompt, or,
Yeah, that's maybe what I would do.
Or if you see them, Chase, like say for instance, you did post it and you say you can use it if you'd like, and you go over as you're monitoring and you see that that EL student is struggling, you'd say, well, you didn't use the starter, use the starter. Because sometimes they don't like know, oh, it's okay, like it's okay to use.
so
and
kind of
then-
like scaffolding. If they're
Yeah.
not reaching it, then help them
Yeah.
fill it.
Okay, let me see. Oh, so now it's our turn. So, if you have your computer, go ahead and open it. If you don't, there's Chromebooks. It's up to you. I'm not gonna like hold you to it, but so from those three strategies, visuals, sentence framing, and peer collaboration, what I'm gonna start doing for my lesson plan is I'm gonna use those three strategies as like a label, unless I have something else in mind, but I'll show you what I mean. EL support. I'm gonna just write sentence frames, and then if I have a document, I'll attach it. If not, I'll just explain what it is. So I'll show you what I mean. So for like the first day of school, I'm gonna have them do their academic goals. And I created a document for them to, full of sentence frames and action verbs for them to pick out what objective they wanna work, and obviously they're gonna fill in the reasons why. So that should be my EL modification for academic goals. I'm providing them sentence frames. Another day, I might be doing visuals, and I'll show you that one. One of the days, I'm gonna be my EL modification will be graphic sentence maps and depictions of it, so like just images that support vocabulary, and that's my modification. So I think when you're working on your lesson plans and you want to just have like a go-to modification, maybe those three might be something to start off with. I mean, I would hope that you would be using those three in your daily lesson plans anyways, so might as well just identify them in your lesson plan. There's a ton more, obviously, there's 50 in the book, you know?
There's one that is 101 too.
But here's the thing though, a lot of the 50 strategies, they kind of like go under this umbrella
Yeah.
anyways. So that's why I chose these three labels. And that's it, guys, that's all I have. So what I want to do is, if you can, share with me something that you have in your EL support category when you log in and you get a chance, so that we can kind of get an idea for what our peers are doing for modifications. Yeah. You wanna? I'll go.
Here's my sentence starters.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, they all sound.
Good. So you do a little sentence.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Mine is just a lot, we have a lot of vocab, a lot of names, a lot of names also, so this is a lot of
Yeah.
How do you model the vocab?
reading the words, so you use it as a text,
Oh,
several
okay.
things.
We're working on our lesson
Trying to
plans.
break apart, here's the base word, this is where it comes from.
Modeling vocab, so Chase just shared that one with me.
Which one?
Modeling vocab, using that phrase, different contexts, emphasizing whenever you use it, exaggerating the use of it maybe, like as often as you can in that day.
You can like come up with an action with the word or something.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one.
I don't know
Just
if
do science.
it's when I leave,
Uh-huh.
Like that?
I get to do science.
Um,
engineering,
yeah.
rate, engineering, is that the problem?
she's very good, she's very good verbally. However, there's like a gap in between her brain, when she speaks, and the writing.
Science, right?
Something I kind of want to try with her is getting her to recorder, having her speak her thoughts into it, and then literally write it down as she listens back to it onto the paper. So she gets used to the mechanic of the writing.
Yeah, so what would you call that?
I have no clue.
Audio.
Speak to type.
Speech to write? Speech to
Speak.
type?
No, she won't be speaking to type. She'll be speaking into a recorder, and then she'll have to listen back to it and write it down herself. Because she can speak and she can tell me about what she wants to write about,
she just cannot get it onto the paper, and we've tried several things. So this is something that I think I wanna try with her, is having her speak it into a recorder, and then
Yeah.
she has to listen back and copy out down what she said verbatim.
I know what you mean, I've had that too, and I'm sure you guys have that where you talk with a student about what they're gonna be working on, and as soon as the conversation is over, they'll say, or, what was that, can you say it again? And so I think
Like,
if she does that to
do that, or,
explain
That's what,
yeah,
what it sounds like, and just have her record
ask,
it.
it's just like,
ask questions,
it's almost like.
yeah.
Transcribe, because that's what transcribers do.
I don't think it's even that she forgets,
have
it's
one
that
that's done. Oh, no, this is, I think she's like small.
on paper.
Table top.
She's wrong.
It's sort of
So I'm wondering if it'll boost her writing, if she listens to herself and gets the.
nothing,
gets
just
like,
thinking.
writing.
That's why,
I just do it based on
Maybe
the
what
group
is our
and
essay?
students and the way they're
Yeah.
acting, it's not necessarily how they're
Yeah.
doing that, right?
was it our essay and model
That's just-
every single paragraph
Okay, we just need this now.
for her, to show her.
It's usually, it's a lot of student based.
Yeah.
I don't really wanna use writing with her because she doesn't really
They're
need.
going to be zombies. It's going to be
Let's
great.
talk around, do something.
Words. She
How
doesn't need
was
the
your?
thoughts, she needs to be able to get her brain to the paper.
Totally over here.
Do you think the shape
Do you really care about students?
would help her?
But
Where
you can tell.
it's
Oh.
specifically asking her for like evidence, what does it mean?
They'll definitely help her organize her
That's
thoughts,
sure.
but
Figured
she's
it
still
out.
gonna struggle with putting them in order,
I will make sure everything
with
gets to
vocabulary
speak.
that makes sense.
He's a good
Because, she can tell me, you know, that,
Take up time.
oh, geez.
Oh,
Like,
gosh.
looking for like a model sentence, like a comparison, like,
I'm still
so it's like
finishing time.
complete thought.
You're just gonna have to learn fast.
Stumble for it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So like, I like to play soccer because it's fun.
Three.
Would come out something like, soccer is fun is like something I like to do. So she, like, and, but she will say it perfectly, she'll just
One is
think it.
anti-differentiation.
I'm curious to see how that'll work out. I think it will, because if she's speaking it correctly, there's obviously a disconnect.
Yeah.
There's no way I can.
Because I've noticed, because with Spanish and English.
What's your class? Did you finish your
Her
first
written-
semester?
I'm checking on it right now, and the third person has not done their work yet.
You had to hide it last year, didn't you? Haven't you? Oh.
It's like, this is like having another student.
What modifications do you have for the EL support?
I have,